What is going on, everybody? Welcome back into another video on MVP Sports. My name is Jake Neverman, and I'm not joined by anybody, as you can see, like I usually am. Today is my final mock draft for the 2021 NBA Draft. We're going to be going a full 2 rounds in this one. Before we get into everything, though, I do want to do a little housekeeping so Ricky doesn't get mad at me. Down below in the description, check out our Patreon, check out our channel memberships. You can get videos a week earlier, such as these big boards, these mock drafts. This one will be going straight up on YouTube. It is the last one prior to the NBA draft on our channel. 2 nights ago, actually, on Friday, we did our Discord mock draft live, where we had Discord members get pulled into the call, act as GMs of the team, and make their picks. If you want to participate in some of those events in the future, go down in our description, click on the Discord link, join the best community in the world. It's free. You get to talk to everybody, talk basketball whenever you want, post questions. Sometimes when we do mailbags, Dave and I may be doing one prior to the draft. You can ask questions in there. Everything. Patreon, channel members, get memberships, get stuff a week earlier than everybody does on YouTube. And then also the Discord down below. And I'll thank our Patreon sponsor, Pat Hill, again for this video. But let's almost get into it. Let's set some parameters here for this mock draft. So the first couple are going to be that I will be saying where these players are on my big board for the first round. For the second round, I won't be. For the first round, I will. I try as much as I can to keep personal bias out of mocks. There's going to be people out there that are going to skip right to their team and see who I have them pick and go down in the comments and complain about it. It's fine. That's how the YouTube game works. But I'm almost predicting what I think will happen on draft night, just from what I've read and what I've heard. But there will be a little personal bias that seeks in there every now and then with some picks. I'll explain it as we go. This one will probably be a little more brief than my last one was. Again, down below in the description. Down below on the channel. Some things have definitely changed for me in terms of who I have going where since then. But I went very in-depth on every team in that one, over an hour long. I don't know how long we go on this one since it is a full 60 picks. But let's get into it. Number 1 overall, I have the Detroit Pistons going with, wait for it, Cade Cunningham. They're going Cade Cunningham. There's been talks about the Houston Rockets trying to move up and take that selection and try to offer them a exuberant amount of assets to get the number 1 pick. I don't think that ends up happening. I think that the Pistons are going to stay at 1 and they're going to take Cade Cunningham. You know, a lot of times when we do these mock drafts, we just skip over Cade Cunningham because we know it's going to happen, but I'll go a little bit into it. We talk about this team and what the Pistons have going forward, and guys like Sadiq Bey and guys like Killian Hayes, Isaiah Stewart, I couldn't think of his name for a second. And then you have good veterans like Jeremy Grant and Mason Plumlee and all those fun guys. Cade Cunningham's going to plug and play. He can play the wing. You can have Killian Hayes be your offensive initiator if you want, or you can have Killian Hayes play off ball and use Cade Cunningham as your offensive initiator. I don't really think it matters which one does which. They'll be intertwining in their roles all year, and then you have a first-team all-rookie in Sadiq Bey. So, again, the Pistons are in a great situation. Moving on to pick number 2, Ricky and I will agree on this one too. I'll have Jalen Green. I'm sorry, and I do have Cade Cunningham 2 on my big board, and I have this man number 1. Jalen Green is number 1 on my big board. He will be going number 2 to the Houston Rockets. A lot of the chatter has been that they are now leaning towards Jalen Green with that number 2 selection. Again, that could change in a day, and now they could be going with Evan Mobley. But I think the top 3 is set in terms of who is going. Now, 2 and 3 might flip from the time that the draft happens, but right now, from what we've read, it's believed that Jalen Green is going number 2. The Rockets have a lot of good talent. Christian Wood, I'm not sure if he's a franchise center going forward. Kevin Porter Jr. can be a wing on a winning team just if he can improve his shot selection a little bit. And then you have Jalen Green who can step in and be the guy. Jalen Green is number 1 on my big board. He's going to walk in and he is the bucket is what Dave and I were calling him. We talk about guys who are walking buckets, and you'll hear me talk about that later in the draft. Jalen Green is the bucket. He is the guy. He is going to walk into the league and probably average 20 points per game. So Jalen Green, number 2, love it for the Houston Rockets. They finally get a guy who can be the guy, and that moves us on to number 3, and that'll be the Cleveland Cavaliers taking Evan Mobley, the center, forward, whatever you want to call him, out of USC. He's tremendous talent. He's a very rare talent. He is number 3 on my big board as well. He is just, when you get comps towards Anthony Davis, it's not by mistake. He is a very rare talent, a big man who is comfortable ball handling on the perimeter, as well as being the pick man in a pick and roll. He can play the pick and pop game. He can do just about everything you want out of a center, out of a 5, out of a 4, whatever you want to, again, whatever you want to call him. Cleveland, obviously. Why can't I think? I can't think of his name right now. Jared Allen. Jared Allen is a free agent, restricted free agent going into this offseason. They acquired him obviously as a part of that James Harden to Houston to Brooklyn trade. That was a whole mess, but they did extend a qualifying offer out for him, so obviously he's going to be a restricted free agent this year. If you get Evan Mobley, I don't believe you pay Jared Allen. Now, the other flip side is sign and trade. Maybe you do match an offer for Jared Allen, but you end up shipping him out for more assets, whatever it may be. Also, taking Evan Mobley at the third pick means that, Colin Sexton could stay. I still don't believe they want to pay him, and that's the main reason they are looking to trade him. And I think that might stay intact even if they take Mobley. Going forward, Darius Garland and Isaac Okoro. I love those two guys. I think Jalen Green would be so perfect on this team, but Evan Mobley is not a consolation prize in any way. He is a big who is very rare in his talent, and he's very skilled. And I think all three guys in this top 3 are going to be studs in the NBA, and that's not something you get very often in a draft. So when you have Cade, Green, and Mobley, it's a win-win-win for every team involved. Moving on to number 4, I do have Jalen Suggs, the point guard out of Gonzaga. Now, there's been talk on this pick, a lot of if the Raptors are considering taking Scottie Barnes. I do have Jalen Suggs at 4 on my board, in my big board. I don't buy into the smoke screens that are being set with Scottie Barnes at 5. Maybe they'll turn out to be true, but I think what they're trying to do is they know that Orlando loves Scottie Barnes, and they are trying to get them maybe to move up to have to take him. Or some team does love Scottie Barnes. I think we'll get into Scottie Barnes with the next pick, but Jalen Suggs, Kyle Lowry most likely moving out of Toronto. We've already heard rumors of the Trash Bros wanting to reunite there with the LA Lakers. So the interesting part with Jalen Suggs is that it kind of, I don't know the timeline for the Raptors and what they're going to do, and that's why I believe that you heard Siakam become available in trades. I wouldn't be shocked if you hear about Fred VanVleet becoming available in trades, OG Anunoby, all these guys, because I think they're almost in turn for a reset. Last year with Malachi Flynn, he's a solid guard. I think he probably projects out as a very, very good backup point guard, but I think that's probably his ceiling. You'll end up with a Jalen Suggs here who can be your franchise point guard going forward, and I think that is what you want the Raptors to do, is to reset their timeline with a Jalen Suggs and kind of don't make him the center point, but he is one of the center points, and he has amazing vision, amazing passing skills, has the ability to make everyone around him better, and he can score on his own. So a very good 3-level scorer. I wouldn't call him elite at every level, but he's a very good 3-level scorer. And then his vision and his ability to make others better is what his main asset is, and that's what, if they do end up keeping on to guys, OG Anunoby, Pascal Siakam, and Fred VanVleet, I assume that he will make them better as the years go on and as he grows into the NBA game. I love his game. I think, again, we talk about consolation prizes when we talk about not getting the top pick. I think all these top 4 teams are going to end up winning with these picks. But that'll move me on to number 5. Number 5, I have Scottie Barnes going to the Orlando Magic, the forward/small ball 5 out of Florida State. We talked about him, I believe, in our last big board, and Dave and I were kind of split on him. He projects out as the perfect small ball 5, and I think one thing that goes very underrated about his game is how passionate and how exuberant he is. He's just a guy, a leader, and that's what Orlando needs. Honestly, is they need a guy. They have all this talent: Fultz, Hampton, Anthony, Isaac, even Mo Bamba. Chuma Okeke. They have a lot of talent on this team, but they don't have a natural-born leader, and that is something that is very important on championship teams. We just saw with Giannis. Giannis is a natural-born leader, and that is what he did for that team, and he led that team to a title. Now, Scottie Barnes is nowhere near the talent level that Giannis is currently, but Scottie Barnes, even if it's not your best player, you just need a leader on the team to be able to lead them towards success, and I think that's exactly what Scottie Barnes can do, and Scottie Barnes is a uber athletic small ball 5 with a 6'9", 7'2" wingspan. He is we talk about the NBA moving towards the small ball 5, and he is exactly that. Him and Jonathan Isaac playing as your front court, starting front court, I would assume. Maybe they'll get somebody else with a later pick. We'll get there. Markelle Fultz, whoever, Hampton, Anthony, whoever you want them to take. that Scottie Barnes just fits it, and he fits the current day NBA and where we're moving. And again, him as a leader is very important. I think an underrated characteristic of prospects when we're looking at it. And he was also number 5 on my big board. Moving on to number 6, we have James Bouknight. James Bouknight will be going to the Oklahoma City Thunder, and I have James Bouknight 17 on my big board, but I have him going 6th here. The Oklahoma City Thunder, I think they are looking for that backcourt pairing with a SGA, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is just going to walk around and average 25, 7, and 5 or something next season again, because he's a superstar S talent in the making. I love SGA's game. James Bouknight does pair nicely with SGA. SGA is elite defensively. Bouknight, we'll see where he grows into defensively. He'll be at worst, average defender in the NBA. But again, uber athletic bucket getter is is the simplest way to put it. The Oklahoma City Thunder have a bunch of young talent. I think SGA is the one to build around. And even adding James Bouknight here at 6, I think is your backcourt pairing for the future. One of them is going to have to improve their creation for others, and I think that'll come with time for SGA and even a Bouknight if they're working together. I think the Oklahoma City Thunder have so many picks going forward that eventually they are going to move for a superstar in a trade. That is really the only explanation I could think of for all the assets they've built up. But I do think that James Bouknight pairs well with SGA. Having two guys near backcourt that are both tough shot makers is a very important thing, and we've seen that kind of with Dame and CJ in Portland. Obviously, that might be coming to an end, but Dame and CJ in Portland, they didn't make a Western Conference Finals together, even though defensively they're atrocious together. SGA can be an elite defender, and I think Bouknight could grow into that. As of right now, my only concerns is why I have Bouknight so low on my big board is I still believe he probably is a lottery talent. His scoring ability alone shows that, but I'm not sure where his game grows beyond there. So having him here at 6, I think Oklahoma City is the perfect place for him to pair him next to SGA, have guys like Darius Bazley and Theo Maledon play with him. Obviously, Poku, we'll see how he keeps growing to it. He showed flashes in his first year. Again, a lot of young talent in Oklahoma City. Bouknight will have the time to grow into the rest of his game, and I think he's been a guy who's rising on a lot of mock drafts and big boards for some people. So I think 6 is about the right chance, and if he didn't go 6, he'd go 7 here. 7 with the Golden State Warriors. I have them going with Moses Moody, the guard/forward out of Arkansas. I've seen in our Discord, we have a Grizzlies fan, OG Buddy, shout out you. He's very high on Moses Moody, and he took him 4th in the Discord mock draft, but I'm not as high. I'm still somewhat high on Moses Moody. I have Moses Moody at 11 on my board. He's going to walk in and be a very good NBA guard, and I think that's why the Golden State Warriors are taking him here at 7. He's very good at a lot of things. We'll see if the Golden State Warriors actually do end up taking their selections at 7 and 14. That'll be the only question. If they actually stay at this pick. But again, he's going to walk in, be able to help them off the bench. Obviously, Curry, Clay, Wiggins, Draymond, Wiseman. We'll see what they do with their pick at 14, but getting a guy like Moses Moody who can play on the wing, who can also ball handle a little bit, you'll see a remnants in the 2 picks that I have for them is people who can ball handle and play make a little bit while making others better, because that's what they need off the bench. They have a guy like Jordan Poole. You now add a guy like Moses Moody. They can play together on the wings, or Moses Moody can play as the offensive initiator from time to time. It's almost an intertwining in roles between those two on the guard position. But the Golden State Warriors, they're going to be championship contenders again next year, most likely, as long as they stay healthy. Getting help off the bench is the most important thing right now, and I think that Moses Moody does that right away as a guy who's going to be able to step in right away and help them at the NBA level. Number 8, I have the Orlando Magic ending the fall a little fall. I have Jonathan Kuminga going here. Obviously, now they're going to end up with Scottie Barnes and Kuminga. Team length, obviously, I don't think Orlando can pass on Jonathan Kuminga if he is there at 8, just because Orlando is still they're in the phase from ending the rebuild and moving into playoff contention. Even though they traded Vucevic and Gordon just last year, the amount of talent on this team, they were just hurt last year, or else they probably would have been a playoff contender. Kuminga here, wild upside, while also a wild floor, low floor. That's the only concern, but I think the Orlando Magic, with how much talent they have on the team, they don't have the guy. And we talk about so many times these teams that are just contending for the playoffs and maybe just contending to get a 7 or an 8 seed and get into a first-round playoff series. Well, I don't build that way. I try to win a championship. And Jonathan Kuminga is a guy who is a wild boom or bust prospect, and that is what the Orlando Magic need currently. Is they need a guy who could be boom, who could be bust, because they need the guy. They don't have the guy right now for their team, and that's exactly what Jonathan Kuminga could be. Not saying he is that guy, he could be that guy, and that's the chance you have to take. Taking almost like a sure thing in Scottie Barnes at 5, then leaves you at 8 with a guy like Jonathan Kuminga, who could be a superstar if he figures out a lot of things. Defensively, has to at least lock in from time to time. Foul trouble can be an issue. Getting burnt off ball can be an issue. But with his body and his length, he should be able to grow into himself as a defender, and I truly do expect him to. In the offensive game, head down towards the bucket, he's almost near unstoppable when he goes there. The shot is going to have to change a little bit. We saw a video of him taking shots at the combine. His face was almost like, his hand was almost like hitting his nose like that. So they're going to have to fix that, but he's going to have time, especially on that team, because they're not going to walk in and try to be a championship contender. If you want to play him off the bench or play him in limited minutes and try to work on his game, that's also an option. But I think at 8, him falling to 8, the Orlando Magic cannot pass on him. Number 9, this pick doesn't need much explanation. The Sacramento Kings will be going with Franz Wagner out of Michigan. Very good shooter, very good playmaker for his skill set. We've kind of had the discussion of him topping out as a role player. I'm not quite sure what his ceiling is. I'm not really ready to put a limit on his ceiling at the moment. He could end up being a stud. He could end up being a very good role player. I don't think it's anything worse than that. He can shoot. He can put the ball on the floor. He can ball handle. Him, Tyrese Halliburton, De'Aaron Fox, you have a very good, solid core going forward. I do believe that De'Aaron Fox can be the guy on a team, and I believe just building around him perfectly is what you need to do. Tyrese Halliburton was already a steal. We know that. Him and De'Aaron Fox can create havoc defensively. Franz Wagner can plug in and be a mistake-free role player at his worst for this team. I just think it's a very solid pick. This Sacramento team has a lot of question marks. Rashawn Holmes is probably leaving. What do we do with Bagley? What Hield, Harrison Barnes? If you want to play Franz Wagner and Harrison Barnes together and bring Buddy Hield off the bench, I think that's the idea. I think you need to move Buddy Hield off this team. While I think Buddy Hield is a good player, I just don't think he fits the timeline or what they are trying to do. So I think him at 9 is perfect. And then to round out the top 10, I know we talked about this pick a lot, but I have the New Orleans Pelicans going with Sengun, the center who played for Bastikis, and I love his offensive game. I know I'm still terrible with international names. I do watch a lot of international basketball. I know Ricky's like over there because I watch a lot of international basketball. I like Sengun a lot. I think that his offensive game is tremendous, has a very good face-up game. His shot is growing. His mechanics are fine. He's just going to have to speed up a little bit when he gets to the NBA. Defensively, yeah, there's a lot of work to be done, and that's where his question mark does come in. Is defensively, can he become a at least average defender? He has some of the worst pick and roll defense I have ever seen out of a big man, but I'm okay looking past that because I can look at this guy offensively and be like, he's going to plug and play in the NBA. Sengun also is going to be able to stretch the floor eventually, in my belief, and that's why I think him and Zion could work together. Zion as your rim protector, almost Sengun just guarding whoever is going to spend more time on the perimeter out of the front court. Him and Zion can play together in my mind, not right away, but that is, I also don't think the Pelicans will be making this pick, but I am not doing trades. I guess I didn't specify that. No trades in my mock. You want a mock with trades, you can go down below in the channel and check out Ricky's mock. But I think, Sengun is a very great talent offensively. Defensively is a wild question mark, and that's why I have him 9 on my board. I'm not quite sure what his upside is, but I think he is a top 10 talent strictly offensively. So defensively, just work on it a little bit. If he can even just become a slightly below average defender, he's going to be in the NBA for a very long time. I just think, the Pelicans, they're in a very interesting place because their roster was so misconstructed for the first couple years of Zion, and now Eric Bledsoe is probably going to get shipped out. Hopefully Steven Adams is going to get shipped out. We don't know what's going to happen with Lonzo. B.I. has been very good. B.I. and Zion can be built around, I believe, and I think Sengun does that. So Sengun at 10, I think, is the right pick for the Pelicans, strictly to kind of hopefully get a pairing with Zion in that front court. Let's move into picks 11 through 20 for me. Number 11, the Charlotte Hornets are going to be going with Usman Garuba, the big man. I'm going to call him a big man. from Real Madrid. This team desperately needs help down low. Obviously, with Bismack Biyombo and Cody Zeller splitting time last year, I don't think that's the long-term option. Usman Gruba is 10 on my big board, and this is a little bit of personal bias seeping in. I could see a Kai Jones and Isaiah Jackson, who I will have falling in this, end up going at this number 11 pick. I am going to go with Usman Gruba because we saw, even against the USA in the short amount of minutes that he got, his defensive IQ is through the roof. His offensive game is good enough for now, but that is exactly what you would like with LaMelo Ball and Miles Bridges and PJ Washington and probably Gordon Hayward and Terry Rozier going forward, depending on who gets moved. A couple of those guys may. I assume Devontae Graham is probably out the door. Usman Garuba, he's going to be elite defensively walking in, and he can be a lob threat. That's exactly what you want when you're talking about this team. His shot will grow. I truly do believe that. And if his shot grows, he's going to turn into an elite big man on so many levels. His offensive game just needs to slightly improve. Defensively, I genuinely think there's nothing that needs to improve. 1 through 5, he is guardable. He is tremendous all the way. There's not much to say about it. Charlotte going to be looking for a big man and then looking for some bench help. I think Usman Garuba fits that hole for a big man, and even he doesn't have to start right away. You can play PJ Washington at the 5, at the small ball 5 if you want Usman to grow offensively before you're confident putting him in. But that's what I have for Charlotte. Number 12, I have the San Antonio Spurs going with Jalen Johnson, the forward out of Duke, I guess. He only played a couple games there. San Antonio, I think this is the perfect spot for Jalen Johnson. We talk about him being a little bit of a head case mentally and kind of thinking that he was almost above his team in college. Dave has bought into the thing that he thinks that's a big issue. I don't yet. It could obviously turn into one. I think getting somebody in his ear at the professional level is very important in improving his game. And I think the San Antonio Spurs are the perfect spot, and they're the perfect team to take it because they need to take a risk on somebody who can be high risk, high reward. Just kind of how we talked about Orlando, looking for the guy. San Antonio still needs that as well. They have a lot of good talent. DeJounte Murray, Derek White, there's been talks about them being on the move. We'll see where that grows into. But I think that Jalen Johnson, he can be a ball handler. I don't think he can be a primary ball handler, but secondary ball handler for a team, can play make a little bit, and can score at every level. So I think he is a tremendous talent if he can get his head on right and learn his role in the NBA. And he has star potential, all-star potential if you want to go there with his talent. And I think that the Spurs are in the position where they can't pass on him here at 12. Number 13, I have the Indiana Pacers going with Josh Giddey. I didn't say I have Josh Giddey 6 on my big board, and I have Jalen Johnson 7. So back-to-back kind of high picks for me. Josh Giddey, I believe, is the best passer in this draft. Dave and I have gone into length about Sharif Cooper and Josh Giddey being the best passers. I think they're both tremendous, can both be elite passers at the next level. Josh Giddey needs to grow a little bit with his shooting ability, and we talked about this on our last big board, me and Dave, is that I do believe that shots can be developed for most players. Obviously, there's going to be a little bit of risk, and some players can't, some players can. I think more often than not in today's game, you see people being able to develop shots to some level, never really to the Michael Kidd-Gilchrist levels where he literally can't shoot a basketball. Not the Ben Simmons levels where he won't shoot a basketball. That's all mental. Giddey here to Indiana, I think it's perfect. He can play off the bench for them a little bit, or even if you want to play him next to Malcolm Brogdon and Karis LeVert on the wings, I think that works as well. So I think Giddey needs to grow a little bit offensively with this game. Defensively, I think he is what he is. Hopefully he can get to be an average defender in the NBA. His foot speed is a little bit slow, but he does know how to use change of pace already. So offensively, that is very key for him. I just think Indiana, again, another team in a weird spot with a weird timeline. Miles Turner most likely going out this offseason. Domantas Sabonis, Malcolm Brogdon, Karis LeVert, guys like O'Shea Brissett. Yeah, I'll mention him every time because I love O'Shea Brissett. But yeah, I think Indiana's in an interesting situation. I think Giddey at 13 here fits them pretty well. And the last pick in the lottery, number 14, I have the Golden State Warriors going with Davion Mitchell, the guard out of Baylor, the one-year wonder, if you want to call him. I don't know where to rank Jared Butler yet, and that's kind of the toss-up I had with these two picks, is I didn't know where to go with Jared Butler. I ended up going Davion Mitchell as a prediction because I believe that the Warriors, he almost fits very well. I think Jordan Poole, Davion Mitchell, and Moses Moody, who I had them going with, fit pretty well in their timeline. I'm not quite sure. I have Davion Mitchell right around the same place as James Bouknight at 16 on my big board. I think that Davion Mitchell is a very good off-ball guard. I don't buy into the superstar potential that most people do. In my last mock, I think I had Davion Mitchell going 5 because that's what the rumors were. But now he is falling pretty hard to the back end or out of the lottery. That's the only question with him. Davion Mitchell, what do we see his upside being? I see him as an off-ball guard who can play make from time to time, and I think him and Moses Moody are almost the same thing, which is why I think him and Moses Moody can play well with Jordan Poole off the bench in Golden State. Golden State's going to walk in and try to be a championship contender again, so I think that's a very good pick for them. Number 15, we're going to have Corey Kispert out of Gonzaga, going to the Washington Wizards. Now, we don't know what the futures of Beal and Russell Westbrook hold. I would assume that Russell Westbrook will be on this team going forward. Bradley Beal, we were heard, might request a trade. We don't know. So that's my only question with this team. Corey Kispert, though, is the kind of guy you want to play with Russell Westbrook, an off-ball wing who can shoot and play good defense. That's genuinely all you need with a guy like Russell Westbrook, is what people tell me. I'm not the biggest Russell Westbrook fan, but that's what I am told with him, is that he can play well with shooters around him. So if that's very much true, Corey Kispert fits that mold perfectly. I don't think Washington is going to be winning anything anytime soon, but they have very good young talent. Rui Hachimura, Denny Avdia, hopefully he gets well, and their new coach doesn't play him like Scott Brooks did in just an off-ball shooter, because Denny can do much more than that. So Denny, Rui, you throw in Corey Kispert here. Some good young talent. I'll put young because Corey Kispert, I don't know how much more he's going to grow in his game, but as a wing shooter, I think he can be very good. He's a pretty safe pick for a team like Washington that just needs to fill out the roster with more talented guys. On to 16, I have the Oklahoma City Thunder going with JT Thor, the probably the biggest riser out of anybody from all the draft combine. I think he can play a perfect small ball big man. I don't know about the 5, but I think OKC is a perfect place for him. Obviously, earlier I had OKC going with James Bouknight, so they figured out a guard position there. Now we go with a wing big position in JT Thor. He can stretch the floor. He can play just about anywhere you want, 3 through 5. He can guard 2 through 5. I think he's a very tremendous prospect who we obviously saw rise during the combine, during the interviews, and I think that's very I think that's a very interesting thing to look at, because combine risers are always a little bit wary to me, and if we didn't think highly of you at the draft, why should the combine change that almost? But with how well he shot the ball and how well he looked defensively and offensively, how well he looked in general, he just rose on so many people's board because he can plug and play in today's NBA. And who knows, with his athleticism and his body, maybe he can grow into more than just a role player. And that's the hope for the Oklahoma City Thunder here, who already have SJ and James Bouknight in this with Poku and guys. They love projects, and I think that's what JT Thor can be, and that's what I think he would be on this team. Moving on to 17, again, a guy who's going to end his fall here. Keon Johnson, I have going 17 to the Memphis Grizzlies. Another guy who needs to develop his shot. I have Keon Johnson at 8 on my board. I love Keon Johnson's game. I think his shot will develop. His mechanics are not broken. Right now, his game is from the free throw line in. I think that can grow out slowly, and I think this is the perfect team to do it. He wouldn't be pressured to do it right away, because this team isn't going to win anything right away. We've already heard rumors about them trading this pick for Eric Bledsoe in the 10th pick, so the Pelicans are moving down to offload a contract in Eric Bledsoe. That would be also a smart move if I'm them. I'm targeting a Moses Moody. I'm targeting a guy like I'm not quite sure anything beyond that. Moses Moody really is the perfect fit for this team, or maybe a Franz Wagner or something like that who can play off-ball shooter. But this team needs the guy. They need a guy with superstar potential. They need a second guy. They already have Ja Morant. Ja Morant is the guy. I love Ja Morant. Ja Morant is one of my favorite players in the NBA. He can be the guy on a very good team. Now you just need a guy like Keon Johnson, who hopefully a year or two down the road, his shot is developed. He can turn into a superstar-esque player, and that's really just the hope for him. Keon Johnson, he is wildly athletic, a lockdown perimeter defender. Him and Ja Morant together would be scary defensively. And then if Keon Johnson can just grow his shot, him and Ja Morant can be the future of the Memphis Grizzlies. He did fall a little bit in my mock. I'm going to have him go here at 17. I don't think that Memphis can pass on him. But going on to 18, the Oklahoma City Thunder. We haven't changed James Bouknight earlier because they need to figure out their guard position. Let's have him take another one because they have so many picks. Sharif Cooper, guard out of Auburn. I have Sharif Cooper 13th on my big board. I think he is a lottery talent. He is the second best passer and one of the best playmakers in the entire draft to me. And him just ending up here is a steal for the Thunder, honestly, in my mind. And, you get James Bouknight earlier, you get Sharif Cooper now. Now you can just plug and play both of them if you want. It takes a lot of pressure off of SGA. If you want to run Sharif Cooper, James Bouknight, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander together in lineup, you can. And that's why I think this pick makes sense. The Sharif Cooper is the perfect fit next to SGA. But I think going with him earlier was a little bit of a reach. Then they take a guy like JT Thor. And now they take a guy like Sharif Cooper. I think if they could walk out with these three prospects, Oklahoma City would be patting themselves on the back. Now, do they make all three picks? That's the question. They have so many picks coming up. They already have a lot of young talent. Where is the balance going to come in and where are the trades going to come in? I assume Kemba isn't going to be a part of the team going forward. Even if he is, I don't see him expecting to be playing very much, if that makes sense, because he's just not. He's not it. You're not that guy, pal. You're not that guy. Kemba's definitely not that guy. But taking a Sharif Cooper here, playmaking, can play next to SGA. I just think it's a very good fit. On to 19, we have the New York Knicks going with Jared Butler out of Baylor. Again, a very safe role player pick who can turn into way more, and he fits Tom Thibodeau's system perfectly. Defensively, he is elite. And then offensively, he can grow. He's even been every time I found myself watching Davion Mitchell tape, I was always drawn to be like, oh, there's the other guy. Oh, there's Jared Butler. Oh, there's another play from Jared Butler. I know I'm supposed to be watching Davion Mitchell, but Jared Butler is just balling every time I watch him. I genuinely think he wasn't on my last big board because he wasn't cleared. If he was, he'd be probably from anywhere from 8 to 12. He is a lottery talent in my mind. He is defensively elite, and offensively, his shot is great. Playmaking is there. If he can slightly improve as a passer and a playmaker, he can become a starting point guard for probably a decade in this league. So Jared Butler, the New York Knicks, they need offense, which hopefully they'll get with their next pick, or maybe another safe role player. We'll see. I think Jared Butler adds offensively and defensively to this team and allows a guy like Emmanuel Quickley to play a little bit more free when they're playing together. I think Butler and Quickley makes a lot of sense together. Bring back a Derrick Rose. You see what happens to this team. Number 20, I have the Atlanta Hawks going with Jaden Springer, shooting guard out of Tennessee. They need another ball handler / playmaker to take a little bit of the responsibility away from Trae Young, and I think that's exactly what a Jaden Springer does. Jaden Springer helps his team long term. He can grow into a very solid playmaker. I think that him at 20 here is a very it's almost a steal in somewhat mine. We had him fall in our Discord mock draft to like the end of the first round, which was pretty wild in my mind. I have him rated like as not as high as most people. I have Jaden Springer at 21 on my board, but I think here at 20, it's an absolute great pick. You get a guy. If Jared Butler's there, you take Jared Butler. If Davion Mitchell's there, you take Davion Mitchell. You take Jaden Springer here. Your Sharif Cooper's there, you take Sharif Cooper. You're looking for a secondary ball handler who doesn't necessarily have to play next to Trae Young. They just need to be able to play off the bench because Chris Dunn was that option, and Chris Dunn kind of faded into obscurity because he can't stay healthy, and offensively he's just not good enough. So Jaden Springer here, another kind of project guy, but I think that's what the Atlanta Hawks are. I know they made the Eastern Conference Finals. I don't think they're going to be finals contenders unless they get another star next to Trae Young right away. So getting a Jaden Springer and letting these guys kind of grow, the Cam Reddishes, the Kevin Huerters, the John Collins, who I assume will be back, and obviously getting DeAndre Hunter back is huge. And then Onyeka Okongwu, we heard, is going to be out for a couple months now. Hopefully he gets healthy because he has exponentially high potential, and I genuinely think he can turn into a top 30 player in this league. I love Onyeka Okongwu's game, and I think that Jaden Springer here really does help with their playmaking off the bench. Let's get into my 21 through 30 to finish off this first round before we get into the second round. At number 21, I have the New York Knicks going with one of my favorite prospects in the draft. Yes, I do have him 19th on my board, but he is one of my favorite. Chris Duarte, the forward, wing, whatever you want to call him, out of Oregon. He is going to be able to stretch the floor immediately, and I think is immediately upgrade to Reggie Bullock, who played for them last year. Defensively, I called him 3-and-D. People disagreed with me. Just because you're 3-and-D doesn't mean you have to be elite defensively. I think that Chris Duarte, especially in a Tom Thibodeau system, can be a very above average defender with his body and with his length. The only criticism with him is obviously he is 24 years old, and him being 24, he's not really going to grow much. But if you look at it the opposite way, you have a good to high-end role player in his prime years on a rookie deal. His rookie deal won't expire until after his 28-year-old season. I think that's an absolute steal, and I think it fits the Knicks the Knicks need to continue making the playoffs, and I think they're going to find that hard this year when everybody gets healthy, hopefully, knock on wood, this year, and they're going to be fighting to get that 6, 7, and hopefully avoid the play-in tournament seeds. So Chris Duarte and Jared Butler, I really do think help this team right away as veteran presences, not even veteran, but experienced presences who can elevate that bench unit, or even Chris Duarte can start for this team. I truly do believe that. I think Chris Duarte can step in and be a starter in today's NBA. Number 22, I have the LA Lakers going with Cam Thomas. We talk about, this is not a very hard pick. We talk about guys who are buckets, and that is what Cam Thomas is really, he is just a bucket. He is a guy who's going to be able to score at a high level in the NBA at every single level. I don't really care what he does beyond that. They need to take the playmaking stress off of LeBron. I'm 36. He's 36 years old, going to be 37 next season. So some of the playmaking has to be taken off of him, and Cam Thomas can do that right away. Outside of scoring, again, he's not going to do much, but scoring wise, he's going to be a very impactful player right away. I had him 24 on my board, but I think this is the right place for him. Obviously, 22, he's going to score at every level at an efficient rate, and his shot selection just has to improve. And I think playing in the NBA, that'll come along really regardless of what team he ends up on, unless he ends up on like a Kevin Porter Jr. situation where he's just chucking the ball every single time he gets a chance. But I love Cam Thomas on the Lakers. Number 23 and 24, both the Houston Rockets. First pick, we'll have them going with Josh Christopher. Second pick, we'll have them go with Kai Jones. Josh Christopher, I think, can ball handle and make and play the wing. I think that you can never have enough wing talent, and I think Christopher is exactly that. I think he is. I have him 20. I have him 26 on my board, and then Kai Jones I had at 20 on my board. So Kai Jones and Josh Christopher, again, Josh Christopher, I think steps in and is what he is. He can ball handle a little bit, play make a little bit, play okay defensively. I think he's just a very good role player and a guy who can help down the road. And then Kai Jones, a uber athletic big who I have falling in my mock. A lot of people, he could go as high as 11 for the Charlotte Hornets, and I also think he could fall as far as 24 to the Houston Rockets. So Josh Christopher, Kai Jones, I think overall, I'm not thrilled with these back-to-back picks for the Rockets, but I think it's what's going to happen if these two guys are available. The other person I was talking about was Trey Murphy for them, but I did not go with them. I went with Josh Christopher. And then Kai Jones, a guy I didn't really talk about a lot. Just, again, uber athletic big who has a lot of boomer bust potential. We've kind of seen this with big men out of Texas. We have a lot of question marks when we look at guys like Jackson Hayes. Does Kai Jones know how to play basketball is a valid question. I think in due time we'll figure out. I'm not as high as Kai Jones as some people are. I think that he can stretch the floor potentially in the future, and defensively he can be a monster if he just gets his defensive IQ up, which happens whenever you roll into the NBA. Hopefully that improves. That's really all you have to bank on with him. Him and Christopher, though, along with Jalen Green at 2, I think you vastly improve your playmaking options and your ball handling options. Now you have Kevin Porter Jr., Josh Christopher, and Jalen Green. Not sure they can play all together, but having those kind of guys who can all play make on their own is very important for a team who is trying to rapidly improve with all these picks. 25, I have the LA Clippers going with Trey Murphy, the third out of Virginia. Dynamic wing who can play make and also shoot and basically score at any level. I think that's what the Clippers need, is they just need more playmaking off their bench. That's why we saw them bring in Rajon Rondo, and I think that this helps them in that mold. I think if Josh Christopher's there, we consider that. But Trey Murphy, kind of another riser late in these drafts. I think he is a very, very good prospect. I'm not quite sure where to rank him. Probably mid to late first round on my big board. He wasn't on my last one. That's why I don't have a number for him. But he is a very dynamic wing who can just about do everything, and that's what they need next to a guy like Terrence Mann off the bench and a Luke Kennard if he's gonna stay on the team as well. You roll out a man with Trey Murphy and Luke Kennard, and you do improve your playmaking options. 26, I have the Denver Nuggets going with Trey Mann, the guard out of Florida. I did have Trey Mann falling a little bit. I have him in my board at 23. I think Trey Mann, I'm not quite sure what his role is in the NBA, and that's my problem. But if he can learn to be an off-ball wing, a guard, whatever you want to call it, which I think that's what his role will end up being, him next to Jamal Murray is a very viable option with Nikola Jokic and Aaron Gordon. So, and obviously Michael Porter Jr. I'm just not. I had him falling a little bit because really that pick 20 was between him and Jaden Springer, and I went with Jaden Springer, which caused Trey Mann to fall a little bit. I do like Trey Mann's game a lot. I'm just not sure exactly what his role will be in the NBA, and that's my only concern with him at the moment. But I think the Nuggets here, they're just looking for guys who can kind of play make, really, because Michael Porter Jr. obviously is growing into himself and growing into his body, and with the back issues that he's had, he's shown his tremendous amount of talent that he has in the playoffs this year, and hopefully that can continue. Jamal Murray coming back off his obviously Achilles injury. Hopefully he gets back to 100% soon. But adding a guy like Trey Mann adds another playmaking option, which is what this team needs. Another guy who is very good off ball at cutting, and that's exactly what you want with Nikola Jokic, obviously the defending MVP. getting a guy who can play off ball very well is important when playing in a system like that with Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic really primary ball handling the majority of the time. And that's what I think Trey Mann can bring. 27, I have the Brooklyn Nets going with Quentin Grimes. So this is a little bit of a surprise to some people. But Quentin Grimes is the guy who's going to step in and be able to play make on the perimeter and get a bucket at any level. And that's exactly what they need. He had shooting off the bench if you want that. Obviously, Joe Harris disappeared in the playoffs, and that was a huge reason as to why they lost, even with the injuries that they had, even with James Harden playing on a hamstring, one hamstring basically, and having having Kyrie Irving out, they almost won. But if Joe Harris could have played a little bit better, they probably would have won. He just disappeared in the playoffs. Again, a guy like Quentin Grimes adds another guy who, if you are missing a KD, a Harden, or a Kyrie, can give you that playmaking on the perimeter that you need. And I watch him not single-handedly. I watched him firsthand do it I'm a Syracuse Orange fan. I saw him eliminate us from the NCAA tournament. I still have a little bit of discontent towards him, but I think he is a first-round prospect, and I think he has the potential to be a very good player off the bench or even starting for some teams in the future. Playmaking is there off the perimeter, and I think he's a vastly underrated prospect. Number 28, I have the Philadelphia 76ers going with Ayo Dosunmu, the guard out of Illinois. One, I don't think they will be here, but two, if they are, I think the Tyrese Maxey and Ayo Dosunmu are a very good backcourt duo off the bench, and I think Ayo brings that defensive intensity that you need, and he is a leader. We saw that on his team with Illinois, and I think that's something the Sixers team lacks with how much young guys they have. Even though Ayo Dosunmu is a young prospect, obviously, I think that him being a natural-born leader coming off the bench and being able to play next to Tyrese Maxey is huge. I think Shake Milton, the experiment, was there. He played very well at times, but he played very bad at most times. He has a very cheap contract. I assume that some team will want that, and I think that I don't believe the Sixers will be here at 28. I believe they'll be trading it for veteran help right away. But if they are, I think Ayo Dosunmu is a perfect fit for them, and I think he steps in with the Tyrese Maxey off the bench, and he plays right away. I think it's a very, very, very good pick as a Sixers fan. I think it is a very good pick if we take Ayo. 29, I have the Phoenix Suns. Taking probably the biggest surprising drop in my mock is Isaiah Jackson. Again, another guy who I believe could go to 11, but he's going to end up going 29 here because I just don't see a lot of teams taking an athletic 5 at this point. You look at the Lakers, I don't think they're taking one. The Knicks, the Rockets, the Clippers, Denver, Brooklyn, Philly. I just don't see it happening. He could go as high as 11 at Charlotte, like I said. But at 11 at Charlotte, it's between Garuba, Kai Jones, and Isaiah Jackson. I want Usman Garuba, and that caused the other two to fall because I don't think a lot of teams are looking for big men now. Maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe the Wizards will bite at 15 at 1. That's a very big possibility if they want to improve on a Daniel Gafford, not rely on a Thomas Bryant. But I have him going 29 here. I think if he falls to Phoenix, it's an absolute steal. It's Jalen Smith, obviously taken last year. Didn't get to see a lot of playing time. I could also see them targeting a guard here if they do believe they are losing Campaign or Chris Paul. That could change. Obviously, I haven't read too much up on Phoenix, I'll be honest, but I think that a guard or a big man is what they need. They are stacked out at the wing position. They are stacked out at the power forward position. I think Isaiah Jackson profiles out as a 5, and that's exactly, Jalen Smith, I'm not quite sure what to buy in with him right now. So Isaiah Jackson at 29, I think is just too good to pass up. He fell too far for Phoenix to pass up at that point. And number 30, I have the Utah Jazz going with Miles McBride. Miles McBride has been one of my favorite prospects. I have him actually 30 on my big board. He's going 30 right here to the Utah Jazz. I think he's a very, very good prospect who's going to be stepping and he could play next to a Jordan Clarkson, play off ball, stretch the floor a little bit, adds a little bit of playmaking to your team, and is a very good passer, obviously becoming as a veteran guard out of West Virginia. I think it's a very, very good pick for them. I think he can plug and play right away if they are going to lose a Mike Conley, etc. And I think that him next to Jordan Clarkson off the bench makes a lot of sense for this team. And moving into the second round, this is going to be near speed run. So I hope you all are ready for this second round. My voice is going. This is about the time where the recordings where my voice starts to go. And we are going to speed run through this second round. Quick explanations for every pick. 31. I have the Milwaukee Bucks going with Zaire Williams, very athletic wing, strong body. Besides that, we have no idea what his game is going to be. I think he has to grow in every single way outside of his body is NBA ready. And I think the top of the second round is about where he should be going. Milwaukee Bucks, obviously the defending NBA champions, can take a risk on a guy like this. Probably they'll bring back Dante, bring back some of their free agents, and then this Zaire Williams can just maybe go to the G League for a year and play and hopefully improve his game that way. 32, I have the New York Knicks going with Nishan Bones Highland. They need offense. Bones is my favorite player in this draft. He brings that in large amounts. He brings offensive talent. It's exactly what you need for the New York Knicks. We had him taking Jared Butler. We had him taking Chris Duarte. You take a Deshaun Highland. You get the offense that you need off the bench. 33, I have the Orlando Magic going with Kessler Edwards. Just a catch and shoot guy who can play on the wing. I'm not quite sure how many minutes are going to be available in Orlando anyways with how much young talent they have. Maybe Kessler can find his way there or play in the G League a little bit. 34, I have the Oklahoma City going with Josh Primo. As I was just reading this, obviously I can't redo my mock, but their Woj and Lowe were doing their podcast special for the NBA draft, and apparently Josh Primo has had workouts in the mid-teens, so we'll see. I have him going here. I think at 34, he's kind of the perfect guy for the Oklahoma City Thunder, another project guy who also can kind of step in and have an immediate impact. A lot of guards for the Oklahoma City Thunder, but I think that's what they're going to target is guards and wings. I think they're big guys. They are pretty okay with where they are at now with them, and adding this wing talent, adding this guard talent is really what's important, what can elevate them, and finding the right partners for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. 35, I have Vrenz from Antwerp Giants, just a big man who can stretch the floor and just about do everything for this team. I say big man wing for the New Orleans Pelicans. I think he's exactly what they need off the bench, a guy who can stretch the floor, a guy who can get inside, play at all three levels basically. Just a very kind of good, boring international prospect. I think he is obviously Blindberg is his last name. That pronunciation is probably so off, but it's a boss name. So Vren's here going at 35. 36, the Oklahoma City Thunder taking Jeremiah Robinson Earl. I have him rated as a first-round prospect. I think he's a very good wing to four who can play a stretch four position in today's NBA. I think he fits the Oklahoma City Thunder perfectly, and I think that Villanova players usually profile well out in the NBA, so I think this is a very good pick early on in the second round. 37, I have the Detroit Pistons going with Aaron Henry, the shooting guard small forward out of Michigan State. Another guy, playmaking is a little bit limited, but he can shoot the ball very well, and that's kind of what you're looking for in Detroit off the bench. Is you have a guy like Sadiq Bey obviously in your starting lineup. You kind of need to find some 3-and-D guys on the bench unit. I'm not sure if Aaron Henry's really defensive upside currently, but offensively shoots the ball very well, can ball handle a little bit. It's really all you need when you're looking at a second round pick, and hopefully you can find some upside. 38, I have the Chicago Bulls going with Joe Wieskamp, the guard forward out of Iowa, knockdown shooter. That's what the Bulls need. Bulls need knockdown shooters. Genuinely, it's one of the things they very much lacked is guys like, when you're playing with Nikola Vucevic and Jack LaVine, what you need on the wings is knockdown shooters. Obviously, Patrick Williams last year, no first-round pick this year because of the Vucevic trade. We'll see what Patrick Williams keeps going into. I had him very highly rated last year on my big boards. Hopefully that'll continue. Hopefully he will continue to develop this year. At 39, I have the Sacramento Kings going at Brandon Boston Jr. They need guard help off the bench. I still believe that if Tyrese Halliburton is going to start and Buddy Hield's going to get moved on. I think Brandon Boston Jr. brings that. I think very athletic body who can score just about at every level. Now, consistency is a very big thing with him, and defensive IQ with needless turnovers is a very big issue with him, and that's why he is a second-round prospect. But the body's there. The scoring ability is there, shot selection, defensive IQ, needless turnovers. Those need to fix, but those are all fixable problems. So I think he can find his way into an NBA rotation for a very long time, and I think the Sacramento Kings are the perfect place for him. At 40, I have the New Orleans Pelicans going with Day'Ron Sharpe, the center out of North Carolina. No real fit next to Zion, but I still think they need some bench help. Obviously, I haven't taken, early in the first round, taken Segun. I think here, Day'Ron Sharpe, good fit. They attack two big guys. I think complete opposite profiles of big guys. Day'Ron Sharpe, obviously a big body inside center, can mold into hopefully a backup 5 in the NBA. That's what you're hoping with the second round pick. And then you have Segun in the first round, who can be a starting center next to Zion Williamson. At 41, I have the San Antonio Spurs going with Rokas Jokubaitis. I think that he's a very skilled wing who can also play make. Needs to learn to become a little bit more reliable in his right hand, and his shooting ability is going to step in and be right there. I think he'll probably be a draft and stash this year from what I've read. Even if that's true, kind of fits the mold of the San Antonio Spurs. Jokubaitis, I think, can grow into being a little bit more than a second round prospect. He's been one of the guys I've talked about the most in the draft. And I think that San Antonio is a perfect place for him to grow and kind of go under the radar and hopefully improve his ball handling a little bit. 42, I have the Detroit Pistons going with Joel Ayayi, the guard out of Gonzaga. Again, I think it's just a BPA player at this point. In my mind, Joel Ayayi falls a little bit here to 42. Going to guard who can just about do everything at an okay level, but nothing too special. That's kind of what you're trying to target here at this point. Hopefully he can grow into more. Detroit Pistons will have playing time available at the guard position most likely, and then he could step in and hopefully grow into a bigger role. New Orleans Pelicans at 43. I have him taking Terrence Shannon Jr., forward out of Texas Tech. Another guy, giant question marks on his kind of consistency, but playmaking ability, shooting ability, I think is there. Form's very good. I'm just not quite sure, again, what his upside is in the NBA, but again, Project Wings can spend some time in the G League, especially with the team like the New Orleans Pelicans, who probably won't need him right away. They can play him in the G League for a year or two, and hopefully he can grow into something more. 44, I have the Brooklyn Nets going with David Johnson, guard out of Louisville. I genuinely think that he could plug in right into their rotation and play a backup guard position. Obviously, we saw some of their guys like Mike James playing minutes for them. I think David Johnson could step in and play minutes for them. Okay playmaking, tight handle, and can play make for others a little bit. So very safe pick here for the Brooklyn Nets. Hopefully, guys like Quentin Grimes and David Johnson could plug in right away for their team and help them right away. 45, I have the Boston Celtics going Charles Bassey because they desperately still need center help. I'm not a big Charles Bassey fan at all, but I think this is around the range where he goes. A team like Boston targeting centers most likely, along with a point guard. I don't think there's any point guards right here that really tempt them. But yeah, I think Charles Bassey is going to have to spend a lot of time developing his game because I don't think he's good at the game of basketball. But I think this is right around where it goes. 46 and 47, I have the Toronto Raptors taking Greg Brown and Philippe Petrusev, because I believe Petrusev will be a draft and stash, and Greg Brown, again, not a guy I'm very high on, but people have him graded out as an early to mid second round prospect. Some people have him jumping into the first round. I'm just not high on him at all. I think this is around the spot where he can go. Again, I question if he's even good at the game of basketball. Hopefully he can grow into his body, not grow into his body, grow into the NBA game and grow his game just a little bit, so maybe he could end up as an NBA player. 48, I have the Atlanta Hawks going with Herbert Jones, another guy who probably would spend some time in the G League, wouldn't get much time on their team because of how much wing depth they have, but is a forward with a lot of upside, just had a lot of inconsistencies in his game. Hopefully, if he can go on a team like the Atlanta Hawks, who can let him spend some time in the G League and grow on his game. 49, I have the Brooklyn Nets going with Jay Huff, small ball, stretch 5. I wouldn't say small ball, but stretch 5 is what they need. Claxton, I love Claxton. I didn't see him get a lot of playing time last year. I'm not quite sure what they're looking for, but with the way they run their offense, I think a Jay Huff would be perfect for them as a stretch 5. And I think that fits their team perfectly, along with a guy like Quentin Grimes and along with a guy like David Johnson. I think you wildly improved your team here, your bench. I think it's a perfect fit. Number 50, I have the Philadelphia 76ers going with David Duke. Not that David Duke, out of the guard out of Providence. Getting a little bit of playmaking. He could probably contend for some playing time at the start of the year. Not quite sure how much time. Again, I don't believe the Sixers will be taking most, if any, of their draft picks in this draft. Maybe they'll be taking these late second-round picks. But David Duke is a good playmaking guard. Obviously was rated higher for most people going into the season. He's fallen a little bit in the second round. I think the Sixers looking for playmaking off the bench. It's a perfect fit for them. 51, I have the Memphis Grizzlies going Daishen Nix. I think, again, another guy who's fallen in my mock, but I think he's a very good player. I think the Knicks can find his way into an NBA rotation right away, and I think Memphis looking for guard help off the bench. We already talked about them being rumored with Eric Bledsoe. I think Knicks could be that guy, and he could play next to a D'Anthony Melton off the bench. I think it's almost a perfect fit for the Memphis Grizzlies. 52, I have the Detroit Pistons going, I'm going to mess this name up so much. Juan Begarin. I don't know how to say his name, honestly. He played in Paris. He's a guard. I watched some of his tape the other day. A very good shooter with a limited playmaking ability, but I think he can step into an NBA rotation and be a very good knockdown shooter. Detroit Pistons, again, we talked about them looking for shooters. I think that's a very good fit. 53, have the New Orleans Pelicans going with Marcus Bagley. Again, another wing who would not jump into their rotation right away. Hopefully would find some time in the G League, help to improve his playmaking a little bit, which is a very big concern with him. That's the hope with that pick. 54, have the Indiana Pacers going with Neemias Queta. They're losing Miles Turner. You want to add some shot blocking, take Neemias Queta. Not really much thought going into that. I just think it's when Sabonis is out of the game, you need rim protection. Obviously, even with Sabonis in the game, you need rim protection. Neemias Queta can bring that. No, most people don't have him ranked, but I'm going to put him there right near the end of the second round. 55, I have the Oklahoma City Thunder going with Luka Garza. Another guy I think could be a very good NBA player. He lost a lot of weight going into the offseason. The Sixers have been rumored with him, and I think he can step in and be a stretch five in today's NBA. Love the fit. Love him at OKC. 56, I have Charlotte going with Sam Hauser out of Virginia. Shooting. I'll also say at 57, I have them going with Isaiah Todd, who we talked about. Some people had him going in the first round. I have him falling in the second round. I think he can be a very good scorer in the NBA. Sam Hauser, knockdown shooter. Not much of a surprise there. 58, have the New York Knicks going with Isaiah Mobley. I'm not really quite sure. I just thought it was funny to have the Knicks going with a brother of a star because they always don't get the star. So I thought it was funny. Isaiah Mobley, I think he does have a chance going here at the end of the second round. Somebody taking a chance on him. Showed some glimpses when you're watching Evan Mobley tape. You kind of creep in and see Isaiah Mobley. 59, I have the Brooklyn Nets going with Raekwon Gray, forward out of Florida State. Again, not somebody I think that's going to step in and play right away in the NBA. He's going to have to spend some time in the G League and grow his game, grow his shot, all that. Brooklyn, again, just looking guys for long-term upside. Gray is the answer to that. And then 60, I have the Indiana Pacers going with Austin Reeves, guard at Oklahoma, knockdown shooter, fits the Indiana mold. I don't think there's much to say there. I just think that Mr. Irrelevant will be Austin Reeves out of Oklahoma. But that'll do it for my last mock draft, our hold to it mock draft. I believe Dave and I will be doing, by the time this goes up, we probably already did a live mailbag at some point. So check that out down on the channel below. We will be live on Thursday night for the NBA draft for all 2 rounds. Me, Ricky, Dave, maybe Soapy will be by too. Maybe we'll bring in some Patreon members as well to talk about some picks. But yeah, that'll do it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed. Again, down below in the description, check out the Patreon, check out channel members. You want to get stuff early. These kind of videos like these a week early. And then also join our Discord down below. And check out our Discord mock we did on the past Friday prior to the draft. I hope you guys enjoyed. Leave your comments down below. I know some of you will roast me. I'm sorry if I upset you with your team's picks, but I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope you have a great day.